let's get into the New Orleans Saints full 7-round mock draft. I think Saints fans would be pretty happy with this. But before we get into it, if you have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and smash that bell notification so you can get a notification every time we post a video. All right, let's get into it. First round, pick 29. Went a little bit different than I think a lot of the, I don't know, like what would you call like the Mel Kipers of the world, the mainstream media. And we went with defensive lineman Maisie Smith from Michigan. I think the Saints need some youth on that defensive line. They need to be able to stop the run, and Maisie Smith is that to a T. Very young, a freak athlete, 6'3", 330. He's just super strong and athletic. I really like this pick for the Saints. I have a feeling it might not be super popular amongst Saints fans, but sometimes you have to make the not so sexy picks to be a top team.
Fair, but I say that, and as of today, David Onyemata and Shai Tuttle are both gone, defensive line guys, and so
and it was already one of their top needs, anyways.
Yeah, and whatever the Saints have already had a very interesting offseason with their cap situation, and then they go and spend $150 million on a quarterback. It's $60 million fully guaranteed. So it's how they're going to be able to finagle this is going to be interesting within just getting to the cap number, and with how many people already they've lost and that are from their defensive line. I think going defensive tackle here, I think that is a great option for them, and it could honestly not be very realistic. I agree, might not be the sexiest pick, but still, it's in a weird pseudo rebuild, like what the Saints are doing. You need to go get guys that can come in and compete day one, and that's what Maisie Smith is going to be able to do. That's also what their next pick, and they're picking pick 41, Tyreek Stevenson, cornerback from Miami. He'll also be able to come in and pick week one. This is a guy that you really liked as well from his Senior Bowl. Really stood out to you.
No, fantastic Senior Bowl. I mean, 6 foot, 195, great arm length, like almost the perfect build for a corner. He was super competitive in man coverage situations in the Senior Bowl, even in situations that were not favorable to him. So one-on-ones, and he just was able to really control receivers off the line of scrimmage and push them off their routes, be disruptive, have pass breakups. I even think he had an interception at some point in the last practice or in the game. I can't quite remember.
Okay.
But just really solid corner. I think he'll be a great compliment to Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore has also been there for a while, and so maybe heir apparent situation going on there. So I really like that pick. Another pick I really like is in the 3rd round. They go and get Derek Hall, the edge rusher from Auburn. To me, I think he's almost the perfect guy to replace Marcus Davenport. Super physical edge rusher. Auburn wasn't very good, so I think maybe a lot of their players didn't necessarily get the hype that they usually would have. But Derek Hall, very solid edge rusher, good in both pass and rush situations. And I think that after these first 3 picks, the Saints have 3 new starters right away.
Oh, yeah. So, and with how many people that are already leaving free agency and depending on what potential cap casualties that come, going and getting some steals like this are going to help out the team, especially in, as I've already mentioned, whatever rebuild the Saints are in. I will say one thing: through these first 3 picks, I know we've gone all levels. I guess kind of all levels of the defense. Saints' offensive line was not good at all, and so I could see them looking back on it now, going on an offensive line route, getting some depth, maybe some young talent. But just the way it kind of worked out is some of these picks were just like, I felt like Tyreek Stevenson was the best player available, especially here. Derek Hall, best player available at pick number 72. So going to be very interesting. Here, though, they do move to the offensive side, and the next couple picks are offensive side of the balls. And so with this one, pick 116. If I remember correctly, I think there was kind of a run on receivers as well.
Yeah, there was.
Around here.
Starting Xavier Hutchinson went with the first pick in the 4th round, and then there were, I think A.T. Perry went right
something like
after
that. I'm
so,
trying to remember. So and with this, though, thought to give Chris Olave a running mate, go with Charlie Jones from Purdue, another Big Ten receiver. Tell me a little bit about Charlie Jones.
So Charlie Jones, Big Ten receiver of the year this year. On tape, he didn't really wow you with his speed, but then he goes to the combine, runs a 4.44. What really popped on tape was his routes. And to me, I think as more of a slot Z receiver option in the NFL, I really like what Charlie Jones brings to the table. Super solid hands, just a fluid athlete. He showed at the combine he has breakaway speed. And to me, I think that's just the perfect complement to a really strong route runner in Chris Olave, but a little bit more of an intermediate to deep route guy. And then you have Charlie Jones, who can create separation like that and shake a corner and get open over the middle. So I really like the fit here. I think Derek Carr would love to have a Hunter Renfrow-esque guy, and I think Charlie Jones could be that for him in New Orleans. So
yeah, especially too. There was a lot of free agent receivers that was coming out. I'm trying to remember. I think Marquez Callaway was also a free agent. Like there wasn't really anybody else in the receiver room that could really provide a spark outside of Chris Olave.
Yeah.
They did sign Juwan Johnson today to an extension, who I like when healthy. And so, actually, I say as a Falcons fan, I dislike.
He's more of a receiving tight end, right?
Yeah, but so he's another receiving option, but he's a big guy, and so he is a good signing, and they want to hang on to him. And so, moving on though now, and this was a guy. I remember when we were going through this, might have been a little bit of a stretch, but we liked what we saw from him. But Chandler Zavala, interior offensive lineman from NC State, a lot of positive stats came out of him, and so
I want to say he had over 500 pass blocking snaps and allowed 0 sacks and only like 3 quarterback hurries, which is insane statistically. That's just like the top guys in the draft allowed much more than that percentage wise. So I think value, that's a good pick. It might have been a little bit of a stretch according to a lot of the big boards out there, but for an interior offensive lineman like that, I think that's worth a mid-5th round pick. So
absolutely. And at this point, they hadn't addressed the offensive line, and that's one thing I think maybe they might address a little bit sooner, depending on how everything falls. But the way that this fell, all the other picks just kind of worked out, and I think getting him at what would be 148, would be good value, all things considered. So moving on though now to their next pick 167. This running back class is really deep, and so we knew kind of going through for some teams, like we can go get a good running back or that can contribute from day one pretty late on. And so at pick 167 in the 5th round, we don't know what's going to be going on with Alvin Kamara. He's having some off-the-field issues, I'm sure, as all of our Saints fans know. So Tank Bigsby was the option that we ended up going with. We thought about going running back a couple of their picks earlier, but we knew that they had so much need that they could get still a good quality running back later on. I think Tank Bigsby could come in and help contribute from the beginning. I think he'd be a good change from Alvin Kamara to help substitute take a couple carries.
Yeah. No, I agree. To me, I think rotationally, Tank Bigsby is a phenomenal option. He could potentially be a little bit more of a bell cow, but I really like what he brings to the table. I think building a good running back room would be good, especially I think Alvin Kamara is the only running back they have under contract.
Yeah, because
Mark Ingram retired, right?
Or they just didn't re-sign him. So one of the two, probably both.
So
probably both. So
next up, their next pick is a guy that I really liked, Mohamed Diabate, linebacker from Utah. Went to the Shrine Bowl, had a good week, showed off a little bit of his versatility. he took over for Devin Lloyd, the linebacker that went in the first round last year, and then actually had a pretty statistically similar year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's good value. He's a little undersized. I think he's like 6'3", like 228. So like a little bit on the lighter side for the modern day linebacker. But
yeah,
I mean, at this point, physically, I think, or tape wise, he's shown he can play football at a high level. Physically, he's like maybe 7 to 10 pounds lighter than what you would want him to be. But I think beefing up that linebacking room would be good. And then lastly, Dante Demas Jr., the wide receiver from Maryland, huge guy, 6'2", 215. I think he would just bring a little bit more of a physical presence out wide than what Chris Olave and Charlie Jones could bring. It doesn't sound like Michael Thomas is going to play for the Saints in 2023. Even he did play in 2022, but then he was battling injuries all season again. So it's kind of one of those things that might be time for both parties to move on. So I like that depth pick right there for wide receiver. And all in all, I think if the Saints have this draft, I think the pseudo rebuild that they're going through would be well underway. I think this defense would get some good youth to it, as well as provide Derek Carr with another good, actually really a couple good playmakers.
Yeah.
So
no, it's all in all, as you said, not a horrible draft. Very curious to see what will happen. One thing, just looking back on it, maybe they go, as I said, offensive line a little bit earlier. Maybe instead of Tyreek Stevenson, maybe they go offensive line and then corner later on. So, but that's the only thing I think looking back on it that I might change. But I like the Maisie Smith pick. I like Derek Hall. Chandler Jones and Tank Bigsby as well, I think would be good offensive additions. So